told Obama about a top-secret weapon that the US military had been developing with Israel since 2005, codenamed Project Olympic Games. This weapon was intended to hit one of Iran's most fortified nuclear facilities, buried deep underground where centrifuges spin uranium to enrich it for use as energy or, with enough spinning, to be used in a nuclear weapon. But this secret weapon wasn't a missile, they weren't planning an airstrike. Instead, it was a computer file, less than a megabyte in size. 150,000 lines of pristine code. This is the weapon that the president had to tell Obama about. This little file had been planted in Iran, where it spread throughout the whole country. But it didn't do anything. It lay dormant until it found its way onto a flash drive that was then plugged in at this underground nuclear facility. And then it spread, finding its way to its final target, this one machine. And then the weapon started working, quietly reprogramming the software to very subtly sabotage these delicate spinning centrifuges.
Hacking video is really just an Iran bad video in disguise. I fucking love that.
Opening a valve to change the pressure, telling the centrifuge to spin a bit faster or a bit slower, all while telling the technicians that everything was working properly. Over time, these subtle manipulations destroyed these centrifuges. This was one of several weapons that the US had planted in Iran using sophisticated computer code.
So, serious question, but like, what happens when Iran does this to us? Then it's bad, right?
What's up,
like,
Greg, and welcome.
I assume. Like, I suspect. Yeah, Danny did a bid on the TikToker digging a tunnel. As you guys know, 2024 is the year of the tunnel. So very excited about that. It'll be super bad. That's also assuming it already hasn't happened. I mean, there have been instances of Iran doing similar things, like dropping. Didn't they literally drop USBs at a conference where like American high-level diplomats were at, or at a security conference or something? And then they literally got access to a whole bunch of information.
Now, if a war broke out with Iran, the US could turn off their power, could turn off their military defense systems, making it so they couldn't shoot down planes. They could turn off their command and control systems so they couldn't talk to each other during the fight. This was a real war plan executed by thousands of American military personnel. Hundreds of...
Not the same for America, but that is an impressive piece of programming. It is, but it's also kind of terrifying at the same time. They do, in fact, all nations have advanced persistent threat groups that are tracked. Here are some more from Iran.
Millions of dollars in a cyber operation that would, quote...
Iran has done almost the same thing Johnny Harris is talking about, but they did it to a Saudi oil company. The software turned off all safety systems in Saudi Aramco. Yeah, that's part of the reason why you can't really go to war with Iran, is not necessarily that, like, it won't be... Like, this is why I was talking about how a war with Iran would be devastating to the global economy, is because they're very close to Saudi Arabia in proximity, okay? So if we go to war with Iran, let's say, Iran is not going to fucking attack America in the same way that America will attack Iran. Iran is going to attack Saudi Arabia and cut off and make it basically impossible for the rest of the global population to get oil. Joel's Severud, thank you for the 30 gifted subs. Also, Tits and Macaroni with another 5 big ones. Those Siemens centrifuges are offline and air gap. They snuck into that facility to be able to do it.
Prepare the battlefield by weakening Iran's ability to fight, all of it using code. The code that sabotaged the nuclear facility was eventually discovered and named after some of the elements that were inside of these many lines of code. .stub or MRX net.
It was a worm that was never supposed to spread further than that facility. Microsoft was pissed at the CIA because they didn't report the vulnerability they exploited to deliver the worm.
They called it Stuxnet. Now, this weapon did slow down Iran's progress at first, but it didn't stop them. But what this did do was showcase a new style of war. The use of quiet weapons in the form of a tiny text file that could self-replicate and wreak actual physical damage on an enemy. We call this cyber warfare, and it has become a fixture of modern conflict.
I gotta grab my food.
Let me show you how it works.
We're moving into a new era. People are actually getting killed.
Dismantle our communication system.
With the click of a button, you can bring down nations to their knees.
Before Stuxnet, most cyber warfare was pretty basic. Like in the 80s, you had this situation where an East German hacker broke into some military computers in the US looking for secrets for the FSB, which was like the Soviet spy agency. Or more recently, like in 2007, where Russian hackers attacked a bunch of Estonian websites in the financial, government, and media sectors, shutting them down as retaliation against Estonia.
The Estonia situation is like way worse because like, they got their whole shit on the net, man. Doesn't Estonia have their entire elections run on the internet? They're crazy for that one. I don't know what the fuck that's about. Estonia, famous for being extremely online and having a lot of ladies. I don't know if you guys knew that. Who's interfering with Estonia? What do you mean? We're literally watching Russia directly interfere with Estonian elections, or with Estonia on this very same video that we're watching.
Deciding to relocate a Soviet monument. These were cyber attacks, but they were pretty weak and unsophisticated, especially compared to what was soon to come. So we live in a weird time. Our information is less secure than ever. And now my phone and my email and my physical mailbox are inundated with stuff I don't want to see. I feel like my information is just leaked out to anyone and everyone who wants it. And this, of course, is a part of today's video, but it also has to do with the sponsor of today's video, which is Incogni. Incogni is a platform that allows you to get yourself off of the lists that data brokers use to get your information. It's really cumbersome and time consuming to go through the process to be taken off of these lists. The companies make it intentionally hard at times. So what you do is you sign up for Incogni and you give them permission to act on your behalf to go out and request that you be taken off of these data broker lists. There's a link in my description. It is incogni.com/Johnny Harris. When you click the link, it helps support the channel. You get 60% off when you sign up for the annual plan. The annual plan allows Incogni to month after month go and strip you off of these lists so that you can retain your privacy over time. So thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring today's video. With that, let's dive into this deep, complicated, intense, wild story of cyber warfare.
The true power of the internet.
Powering the internet generation.
What do you mean you think this product actually works? I don't give a shit. I have no idea and I don't care. Are you fucking kidding me? It's a YouTube ad, dude. I'm just watching it because the YouTuber put it in the fucking video and I'm watching the YouTuber's video and it's only fair. It's not my fucking ad. They didn't pay me.
On the internet.
We have to remember that in the early 2000s, most of the world wasn't built off of the internet yet. Internet speeds were getting good, software was getting sophisticated, and computers and their software were becoming the foundation to many big invisible industries like shipping, finance, and energy. And crucially, hackers who had grown up on the internet were getting really good at finding vulnerabilities in these systems, breaking into them, learning to exploit them. Now, how those hackers ended up selling their secrets to the US government in the name of making cyber weapons is the next part of the story. But first, A quick word on software. This thing that runs our modern life, that is mostly invisible, but that is endlessly important. That ensures that you have electricity and that you can access your bank account and do your job.
I'm no longer trusting.
All of this is made possible because of something that looks very simple. Lines and lines of code. They're just basically lists of instructions on how a system should run, what it should do in every circumstance, and who has access to what. But because more and more of the world is run on software and software contains sensitive information.
Is this how you guys feel? That like the bond of trust is broken and now you think I'm going to serve you a top of the hour ad break? That's 3 minutes long at the top of the hour? That's kind of fucked up. I'm sorry to have done that to you. I will be way more cognizant of my segues in the future after this one. Here's the 3-minute ad break now, bitch.
Like your social security number or bank account number, whatever. Developers build their software like a castle. So this is our software castle. It has walls and locked doors that only authorized users are allowed to get into. But inevitably, because it's a big complex castle, the builders of this castle, on accident, left little holes, little vulnerabilities, weak spots, secret doors, that if an intruder could find, would allow them to get in, where they can steal things, or even take control of parts of the castle. They can lock the owner out and only give them access in exchange for money. Or they could just leave little time bombs that will blow up later. Almost all software has some kind of vulnerability that would allow a hacker to get in and control things. But the worst kind, arguably, and the nightmare scenario for software developers is the 0 day. It's called a 0 day exploit because by the time the intruder gets into the software castle, the developers had known about this for 0 days, meaning they didn't know, they were unaware. They were blindsided by this attack. It was a hole in their castle that somebody found, and now they're screwed. Now, once a hacker gets in, developers often know that there was a vulnerability, they can work on patching it, but that takes time. And then, of course, they have to get the users to update their software in order for that patch to actually work. And we all know how kind of annoying that is. A 0 day exploit is a software developer's nightmare, which in turn makes it a hacker's dream. Some hackers will spend their time looking for 0 day exploits in really powerful software, like the software that runs your iPhone or Google Chrome or Windows operating systems or a million other pieces of software that run our world. Some are interested in doing this so that they can get money or passwords, that's the criminals. Or others are interested in gaining control of underground nuclear facilities and electricity grids.
Which is also the criminals, but this time they're ostensibly on our side, so they're not criminals.
That would be the government. Okay, so let's say that you're a really sophisticated hacker and you have somehow found a 0 day exploit for an Apple iPhone iOS. You can get into someone's iPhone and control it. That's a really valuable thing. You now have a few choices on what to do with that information. Number one, you could go right to Apple and you could give it to them. And they will pay you handsomely. Right now, they will pay you $1 million in exchange for a 0 day exploit that allows you to hack into their iPhone. Every big software company does this. Like Google will give you $150,000 if you can find a way to take over one of their Chromebooks via a website. Software companies offer these bug bounties because they want to know where the holes in their castle are. They want to patch them. They want to avoid the nightmare of being hacked into and compromising the security and privacy of their users. So yeah, that's one of your options. Sell it to Apple, get $1 million, totally above board. We'll call this the white market.
$150,000 is like, that's so stupid. I feel like that's so cheap, dog. Nobody's taking that offer. And no, while I'm looking down eating, I will see it. I see everything in the chat. But I guess it's for Chromebooks, right? Even Google's like, yeah, who gives a fuck? It's Chromebooks. Yeah, I feel like you could give that to North Korea or some shit for way more than $150,000.
But you could also sell it on the black market to criminals who want to use these exploits to make money, which happens. Like in 2016, there was this case where hackers that may or may not have been linked to North Korea were able to hack into the central bank of the country of Bangladesh. They were able to make all these fraudulent requests and like hijack the SWIFT system that transfers all the money. And in the end, they were able to get $81 million transferred to their bank account in the Philippines. Their end goal was to get
respect. They should keep it
closer to $1 billion, but because of a typo in one of their fraudulent requests, they got caught and it got shut down. But the point is that there's a black market for 0 days because there's a lot of money to be made if you can hack into a financial system. But you also have a third option here. If you have a 0-day exploit, you can sell it to a government or a military. They tend to have pretty big budgets, and more, they're interested in developing cyber weapons, hacking tools that they can use against their enemies. We'll call this the gray market, and the money here is pretty big. So there's all these middlemen brokers for 0 days, they're like dealers. There's one Russian 0-day dealer who a few months ago tweeted out that due to high demand, their clients are now willing to pay $20 million, 100 times more, for a hacking tool that uses 0-day exploits that allows them to fully hack an iPhone or Android device. And then they specified that their client is a non-NATO country, which experts basically say is them saying like, this is Russia. Like our client is Russia. These
only
three
non-NATO
markets for
country.
0 days show us just how valuable these little bits of code have become, because they aren't just little bits of code. They are now weapons. They are access to very valuable castles of software. Criminals want them. Software companies want them.
I think you underestimate the power you have with your money now. You have more than enough to hire competent hackers and ruin your competition. 150K is actually not that bad, especially if you give them a direction to follow. Okay, first of all, I simply meant $150,000 for a massive exploit, a massive vulnerability, is literally nothing, because you can make more money just selling the exploit to someone else. That's simply what I was saying. I'm not saying that $150,000 is a little amount of money. I'm saying for what you have in your hands, $150,000 is not that much. I feel like a person who's also capable of getting, a person who's capable of accessing Chromebooks from a website are probably going to be able to make $150,000 with other means, illicit or legal, in a year, regardless, at that level. How do Pokemans cookie taste? I'm too broke and always wondered. Dude, I don't fucking know. It tastes fine.
But more and more governments want them. And this is how the US and Israel built Stuxnet, their big weapon against Iran, using 0 days. Not just one 0-day exploit, but 4.
And what Iranian officials describe as an act of nuclear terrorism.
And this is the reason why experts and the ex-director of the CIA call Stuxnet a game changer for warfare. Because whenever a country uses a big new weapon, all of the other countries, especially the rivals, realize that they have to match that capability and ideally one-up it. That's how arms race works. That's how nuclear weapons have worked. And that explains the concern of the ex-director of the CIA.
This has the whiff of August 1945.
1945 being the year that a nuclear weapon was used in war, thus changing the world and the balance of power between countries forever.
Somebody just used a new weapon, and this weapon will not be put back into the box.
Famously, another good thing for the world.
So by the end of the early 2000s, after Stuxnet, it truly was the beginning of a new era of cyber warfare. In 2012, Chinese-backed hackers broke into the computer systems of over a dozen oil and gas companies. There was an investigation, and the FBI and Homeland Security concluded that the attack wasn't to steal anything or even to sabotage the infrastructure, but rather to, quote, gain strategic access for future operations, meaning to gain leverage over the United States. Investigators said that this was the first time that they had seen anything like this. That same year, an Iranian hacker group attacked Saudi Arabia, Iran's enemy, using a cyber weapon that is kind of like a digital bomb. It was a virus called Shamoon, and it got into the computers of Saudi Arabia's state oil company, wiping their hard drives clean. This thing spread across the company's networks, ultimately wiping data from tens of thousands of computers and rendering them totally inoperable.
How come these motherfuckers never do this shit to like the State Department's records for FAFSA? This shit sucks, dude. Actually. What the hell, man? Do that shit to like medical debt. The fuck are you growling at? Get out of there. You're gonna take the cables out again. Go. That's the plot of Mr. Robot. Yeah, well, you know, it's fucking annoying that it's not the plot of the real world that we live in. Thing about a 0 day is once you use it on someone who can understand it, it's burnt and will be patched. I mean, I feel like not only was this patched, but also they're now utilizing it themselves, no?
Huge blow to the company. In 2015, a huge cyber attack occurred when the Russian hacking group Sandworm shut off the power to 250,000 Ukrainians by gaining control of the computer.
All I'm saying is, these in the American State Department, the guy who fucking found the exploit, or someone who found this exploit originally under Windows, bitch, you got medical debt too. You know what I'm saying? That's all I mean. All I'm saying is, listen, if you're an American, you probably have medical debt. If you're an American, you probably have student loan debt. You didn't even think about it for a second. Like, sure, put it in the fucking Iranian nuclear facilities, okay? But like, it didn't even cross your mind a little bit. Just a little bit. Just for like a second, be like, wow, I have access to all of this. I just have the master key to Windows XP. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That's treason. Okay, but like for good. Treason, but for good. Never use it for debts or against Israel is a rule, it seems. Yeah. This also suspiciously does not happen to Israel. Well, you know, also suspiciously always directed by either Israel's allies, including Russia, against Israel's enemies, like Iran. It's so interesting. I wonder how that happened.
Computers that ran the power stations. This is actual footage of them remotely controlling these stations.
That a lot of these dudes,
they used a piece of automated malware to do that, which is a sign that
a lot of these dudes are Israeli. And a lot of this tech does come directly from Israel, including, as far as I understand, tech that one, Russia uses definitely, and two, tech that even I think China has used as well.
they will probably want to use that again. That looked like a kind of practice rounds to develop a capability that they wanted to have to use globally.
This set a new precedent. People theoretically knew that cyber weapons could be used against electricity grids, which is like the lifeblood of our economy and society, but it hadn't actually happened until this 2015 attack. These are just a few examples, but they're examples that show how cyber weapons became employed in a war context between countries. It wasn't just hackers trying to steal money. It was countries trying to hurt their enemy, trying to demonstrate their capabilities, to deter their enemy, to let them know that they have power over them. A tool of war, of national power. And indeed, in 2010, the US acknowledged this very overtly by adding the US Cyber Command as a new department to the military. Cyber war was here, and it was here to stay.
Today, we face threats that have increased in sophistication, magnitude, intensity, volume, and velocity.
But here's what's crazy is that these aren't weapons. These aren't like missiles where a country has a monopoly over buying and using them. Cyber weapons are just bits of code. They're text files that are really small and easy to transfer around. So what happens when a cyber weapon developed by a military gets into the hands of everyone and they can use it however they want? Well, that's exactly what happened in 2016.
The DNC has called the FBI after a deleting attempt to hack into voter databases.
During the 2016 presidential election, the US was hit with a barrage of cyber attacks. This included the hacking of emails of the Democratic Party, a misinformation campaign on social media, and even an attempted hack of voter registration databases in several states. American intelligence agencies came together, they investigated, and they concluded that this was Russia. It was Russian hackers that were supported and directed by the Russian government itself. And the goal was to sabotage the American electoral system.
The Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC.
It's low-key lame that they also penetrated RNC and like that. I'm almost certain Julian Assange never leaked that stuff. And I'm pretty sure Julian Assange, or at least WikiLeaks, had access to the RNC folders as well, and we never even heard about it. Also in 2021, we found out that Chinese hackers have been in our government systems for years. We still don't know the full extent of the damage. Assange said the stuff they found was mid. The RNC would never simply behave improperly is why. Yeah, famously, none of the most famous American pedophiles have come out of that party. No, I don't think it was like the Republicans are coordinating with Russia more so than I don't know. Maybe there wasn't anything like all that crazy. Or maybe it was because like Vladimir Putin made a calculation that it would be like the Russian government made a calculation that Trump would be more beneficial and easier to manipulate. Yeah, Assange hates Clinton personally. But that's lame. Like that would be crazy. Like, I don't want to believe that he was so anti-Clinton that he like basically did not leak the RNC stuff because he just wanted only Clinton to be hit. That's so lame. I don't want to believe that. It might be true. Assange charged with treason by America. He's an Australian citizen. So how does treason make sense? He didn't betray the Queen. Brother, we live in the United States of America, okay? The world is our oyster.
This was like a frenzy here in the United States. Like everyone was talking about it. It was a huge deal. But in the middle of all of this, a post quietly appears on GitHub from a user by the name of the Shadow Brokers. This was a few months before the election. It was a tense time for a lot of reasons. They claimed that they had super powerful cyber weapons from the American government's most elite cyber war group, the ones who created Stuxnet. and that they would sell these hacking weapons to the highest bidder. They would take their bids in Bitcoin. They released a few pretty impressive samples that actually looked pretty legitimate. They released an encrypted file that said contained more hacking weapons, but you needed the password for it. But they held onto it, posting every once in a while with a trickle of more information and honestly, a lot of like bizarre rants on American hypocrisy and broken English that felt kind of intentional and caricatured. They didn't end up getting very much money and it all looked fairly ridiculous. But then, out of nowhere, came this post.
Last week, the shadow brokers be trying to help peoples. This week, the shadow brokers be thinking, F peoples.
They were getting pretty spicy, and indeed,
oh god, they're fucking WoW nerds. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Released this password, this weird password that they said was the password to that encrypted file that they had posted earlier. And when you put that password in the encrypted file, you discover that it is exactly what the shadow brokers said it was. 67 files that comprised some of the most sophisticated and dangerous cyber weapons that the NSA had ever created. And among them, the most powerful of the bunch, a tool called Eternal Blue, which allowed hackers to break into and control the Windows operating system, which is what most computers in this world use. Eternal Blue was like an open door. Back to our castle analogy, this was like a door into millions of castles, and the power to spy inside of the castle, to unlock any door, to steal the contents of the castle, to disrupt and break and destroy whatever you wanted inside of the castle, to lock people out of their own castle. Yeah, I mean, this was like a sophisticated military weapon that had just been duplicated and sent to anyone who had an internet connection. And what it meant was that the shadow brokers, in all of their like caricatured broken English, were actually legit. They had hacked in to our national security agency, our secret spy agency, and stolen the cyber weapons.
I feel like this is giving an aneurysm to all the comp sci nerds. However, considering that the chirping is minimum right now, I'm assuming that, albeit reductive, it's like not wrong. A lot of what he's saying is like reductive, but not completely off base, because I know for a fucking fact that if he was actually totally incorrect on everything that he's mentioning right now, the chat would be going nutty mode. Anytime I bring up, God forbid, I say fucking DDoS wrong, I get ass fucked into oblivion by every fucking comp sci person in the chat. It's highly reductive. It makes my eye twitch, but it's not inaccurate.
And sent them out to the entire world. Not just to other governments, but to anyone. So who are these shadow brokers and how did they do this? The answer, and the kind of scary thing about cyber war, is that we don't totally know. Experts think that Russia did this to send a very clear signal to the NSA and to the United States at large that, hey, we can do this. We have the power to break into your biggest secrets, and we will release them if we want to. So now, after 2016, we enter a new era of cyber warfare. Stuxnet was a big turning point. The shadow brokers and Eternal Blue is our next turning point. From here on, you see a new genre.
He's literally just stealing the content from Andy Greenberg's book Sandworm, fucking chapter by chapter. I'm a comp sci guy. Why did they try to cancel you instead of this guy for stealing content? Fucking I don't know. I'm sure he's like changing it up as a little bit, especially after the H Bomber guy stuff. Like, I doubt that someone whose channel is as big as Johnny Harris with as liberal of an audience is going to fucking verbatim copy paste shit.
Genre of more sophisticated, more powerful cyber attacks. Barely a month after the NSA's secret weapons leak out by the shadow brokers, a North Korean-linked hacking group uses them to deploy a virus that spreads to nearly every country on Earth within hours, locking up hundreds of thousands of computers, making them unusable. which halted hospital equipment, police departments, governments, and railways in over 150 countries.
I like that the framing of this originally was like, isn't this fucking cool and dope and sick and like definitely good when it was happening to Iran by the American State Department? And then like the moment that that information, of course, is released into the world, someone is going to figure it out and probably utilize it against the United States of America, which put it out there to begin with. And then it's like, well, dude, think about how devastating this is. Which I think is pretty funny. It's like, why is that not an ethical consideration at all? Is this not an ethical consideration at all? Like when we make this tool and we're like, we have to use this on Iran, there's no thought process where someone goes, hey, dude, remember the Oppenheimer shit that happened? Maybe not such a good idea. How about we don't do this? I'm serious. Dude, we are so fucked. This is one of the missions in Watch Dogs 2 where you hack the world and cause chaos on every country on Earth. iOS vulnerabilities are getting more sophisticated as well. Update your shit to 17.3.1 chat. I have been in cybersec since 2012. I just discovered the first rat I've ever seen in my career on a user's BYOD iPhone last week. Good times. I don't know what any of those words mean. To be fair, Oppenheimer hadn't come out yet. Yeah. The guy at that point probably was like, yeah, no, certainly there's no historically prescient moment that is analogous to the situation unfolding right before my eyes. Definitely. Oh, rat, remote access Trojan. It means update your shit. Oh, it's pretty funny because, like, I don't know what the fuck people will find if they were in my phone and doing remote access on my phone. There's, like, not really anything going on. A bad anime blog? Bank info, passwords, emails. No, I know that. Bro, once they are in my phone, I'm talking about like compromat or something. You know what I mean? Like compromising information. But the point is, for me, I don't have that sort of thing. I don't like I'm already the point is I'm already live basically most of the time. I'm live more of the hours of the day that my eyes are open than not. So almost every single thing, with the exception of like obvious privacy stuff that is not like compromising, but it's still, you know, it's just specifically for privacy. Like every single part of that is just like, real income leaked. Yeah, except that has already happened.
You're sitting there on your computer and this pops up saying that your files are locked and that you can get them back, but, quote,
you have not so enough time,
close quote. and that, quote,
you need to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin to do so.
Malicious software has been taking computers hostage in an unprecedented worldwide outbreak.
This is called ransomware. Basically, you ransom the computer files and you have to pay. This happened in a matter of hours. It was only stopped because a 22-year-old researcher accidentally activated a kill switch baked into the code. So the bigger crisis was kind of diverted. But even still, in just that few hours, as WannaCry was spreading to 150 countries, it caused hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars of damage and economic loss.
Damn, bro. They're like, fuck, man. I can't believe we left the off switch in there.
Showed us how powerful these NSA weapons could be in the hands of bad actors. And we learned this lesson once again when these same weapons...
There has to be someone out there that could hack your shit if they hated you enough. No, the point is there's not anything there to find. Beyond like doxing my family, which people literally already do. So I don't even know what to say about it other than like... like everything. Obviously, the shit that they could do is like steal my money or something, but I'm talking about like compromising things. You know what I mean? There's like nothing there.
Weapons were used by the masters of cyber warfare, Russia.
It's the single biggest attack on record.
It was June of 2017, the night before Ukraine's Constitution Day, when the Russian hacking group Sandworm deployed an attack that was similar to their 2015 electrical grid attack. But this time...
Hack the rich. They can get photos of your small peepee. Huh. They just dump your creds and see what's going on in the DM. If they got your phone, they get everything. No, I understand that. I guess the worst shit would be if they like put anything in there. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I feel like it's all...
They had the NSA weapons in their hands, so it was a whole new level. This one...
A lot of your moms would obviously... a lot of your moms would obviously be having their nudes leaked because, you know, they send me their nudes.
One was called NotPetya. This thing was potent. It spread very quickly, and soon Ukrainians were seeing this scary screen on their computer that literally started with, quote,
"Oops, your important files are encrypted. Perhaps you are busy looking for ways to recover your files, but don't waste your time. Nobody can recover your files without our decryption service."
It looked like another ransomware attack, saying that you have to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin in order to get your files released. But meanwhile, it was spreading super fast and wiping everything out in its path. It took down Kiev's mass transit system, airports, hospitals, and it rapidly spread through government agencies. Gas stations and power grids went down, credit cards stopped working, and it shut down almost every ATM machine in the capital. One person who was caught in the middle of this cyber attack described it as, life went very fast from what's new on Facebook to, do I have enough money to buy food for tomorrow? And it's a moment like this that we can really grasp.
Yeah, we still think Unit 8200 hasn't already checked your shit after raising all that money. They want to see your contacts. Please, Unit 8200, if you're checking my shit, know that like I have no malice towards Israeli citizens. I want Israeli citizens to be able to peacefully coexist alongside Palestinians, okay? Sir, Mr. Hasanabi, sir, we have remote access of Kaya. Please refrain from biting your nails or we'll force her to fix your camera and piss Max on an hourly basis.
Just how fundamental this infrastructure is to our lives. And in this case, there was no kill switch. It was so viral that it spread beyond its target of Ukraine into other parts of the region, hitting the systems of a bunch of companies like FedEx or the shipping company Maersk. And soon tens of thousands of trucks were stuck for days with no computers to guide them. I mean, that's a lot of trucks. And many, many others. It affected tons of companies and agencies and systems, all because of this one virus. Unlike a missile or an invasion, cyber can hide behind this hackery-looking screen. This doesn't look like a state entity. This looks like a hacker doing a ransomware attack so they can make some money in Bitcoin. But that's not what this was. This was a coordinated, sophisticated attack by the Russian government using an American cyber weapon to make it more viral that caused an estimated $10 billion in economic loss and damages. And in the process...
Good thing we used it, though. Good thing this was good to be invented. Maersk lost all their domain controls, no backups, and were only saved because the Ghana office had a power outage during the attack.
Really blurring the lines of the rules of war, where usually, like, you know what a country did to you and you know how you're supposed to respond, and all of that creates this nice balance of, like, deterrence. That's kind of the lifeblood of stability in our global order. When you've got these, like, shadowy, like, deniable attacks, it makes it way harder to know how to respond.
You're talking about how Turkey is a huge oil supplier to Israel and you might find Pegasus on your phone?
To whom?
I was lying. Turkey is not a huge oil supplier to Israel. Also, I love Israel. I'm having an Ian Miles Chong moment, but in the opposite direction.
Respond. And, like, what's proportional? It just changes our view of conflict, which is why regimes like North Korea or Russia have leaned very heavily on this type of engagement, because as they become more isolated and as their military becomes less effective, this is a way for them to stay relevant, for their enemies to continue to fear them, because cyber is an actual weapon of war now. But let me just say something that is probably not obvious and might be surprising to you here at the end of the video, which is that the biggest threat in the future, the thing that's going to be the biggest part of cyber warfare, isn't going to be these big splashy, like, shut down the electrical grid, doomsday scenario situations. Those might happen. Those are real threats. We need to prepare for them. But like any weapon of war, cyber is turning into a weapon that is being deployed subtly, that countries will use to get into the minds of their enemies. Like right now, we could be pretty certain that Russia and China have quietly infiltrated parts of our infrastructure systems. They haven't done anything with that. But
bro, the only country that unironically takes a fat W in all of this is Poland, because they don't know how to use computers. Like, there's only one computer in the country and many people don't even know how to use it. So therefore, they are so not susceptible to cyber warfare. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So who's the real winner in this global cyber war after all? That's right, Kurwa, Poland.
They're probably there. At least that's what a lot of analysts and experts think. And that we have probably done the same to them. And that we're all just sitting there with our little time bombs put in.
Poland has one computer and it's running at all times, and it's actually running to make the next CD Projekt Red video game.
To our enemy's castle in case we need to use them. And we want our enemy to kind of know that we're there. There's this list that I've been looking at of all of the cyber attacks. CSIS, the think tank that I used to work at, documents these. And I was surprised that I hadn't heard of almost any of them because they're small, but they're frequent. To me, this is the future of cyber warfare.
Wait, he worked at CSIS? Oh, God. I thought he worked. So this man worked for the World Economic Forum and CSIS, which is the Center for Strategic and International Studies think tank. Bro, you don't focus on these videos? What? What do you mean?
It's not Stuxnet and WannaCry. It's these death by 1,000 pokes, psychological warfare, revealing to your enemy that you have capabilities to infiltrate their systems. And in that sense, cyber warfare starts to look a lot like nuclear deterrence. Like a shadowy, hidden submarine with nuclear weapons floating through the ocean somewhere, capable of hitting your enemy. And your enemy knows that. They don't know where it is.
He's the actual agent, not the horse guy. By the way, I've often laughed at people that think Bosch is a fucking CIA agent. I've said numerous times that that is hilarious of a thought. Okay? Like, I don't think Johnny Harris also is a CIA agent beyond the memes. I think he's more so, I don't know. He's just a YouTube guy who loves the State Department. But it is pretty funny to think that the CIA is working with fucking political commentators on YouTube. Come on. But of course I would say that because I'm CIA.
But they know that it's there. And any calculation that they make on conflict takes into account that that weapon is there and could be used at any point. This is the weird paradox of war and peace and deterrence. That one of the forces that has kept our world stable and rid of great powers conflict since 1945 has been the fact that we have very powerful weapons all pointed at each other, and therefore we don't use them. Cyber weapons are going the way of that kind of deterrence. Hopefully, they'll never be used in the way that we fear, that the sort of doomsday scenario of like they shut down the electrical grid and they do a full-scale attack.
Yeah, especially since most left YouTubers are willing to undermine the left for free. Exactly.
Yes, there will continue to be these moments where viruses spread and...
My man, they infiltrated the Paris Book Review and made Jackson Pollock an art star. Brother, you are literally huffing on crack cocaine if you think that there is an even remote need for that level of infiltration in what remains of the left in the United States of America. Okay? You have cooked up crack cocaine and are now huffing it and boofing it simultaneously. There is nothing. It's not about need, it's control. Yeah, again, they have it. Control, they have it. Need, they do not. Why do I talk about how we live in a neoliberal monoculture in every aspect of our lives, no matter how radical one fancies their politics to be, is still very much shaped and defined by liberalism in general. That the conditions in which we analyze our interlocutors, things of that nature, all shaped completely by liberalism. It makes no sense that we think that it's like there's anything beyond that. Anyway, depends on who parents such a general AI. Standing on a platform on a river of lava facing my old master who has the high ground, you underestimate my power. Yeah.
To avoid those, just update your damn software. I hate it as much as you do, but like two-factor authentication, we got to do it. All this stuff, it's there for a reason because we live in...
Bro, I love describing Stuxnet and like how powerful the state actors are and then turning around and being like, yeah, and that's why you need two-factor authentication. Are you insane? First of all, that's great. Two-factor is good for like criminal elements, even though there's workarounds on that front too. And you should definitely do that for the record. But it is funny to mention that in this process while simultaneously talking about state actors and how they have decided if they want to get into your phone, they can. Sure. Random criminal script kiddies, yes. Like people that try to do social engineering and sim swiping, yes. Two-factor authentication will help you. And I don't mean with your phone number. I mean like with a separate, not an SMS two-factor. I'm talking like a separate app. Okay. Obviously, the most protective thing that you can do is have like a physical key. It's called a YubiKey, right? It's better if you simply have Google. I mean, not better. Sorry, it's less secure, but still relatively secure. Most of these things are basically security theater. Okay, it's kind of like locking your door. If someone wants to break into your house, they don't need to just like break through your door, but locking your door makes it so that there's at least one layer of protection. Most security is just security theater. It's not about definitely 100% keeping people outside. It's more so about making it as like annoying as possible. Make it as difficult as possible to break in. It's a deterrent. Yes. You are so correct. You have real cybersecurity brain. Well, the reason why I have real cybersecurity brain is because I am a Twitch streamer. This industry is this part of entertainment is completely dominated by an audience that spends most of their time online and is riddled to the brim with comp sci nerds. And beyond that, there are a lot of bad actors in this space that is desperately always trying to fucking. Hasanabi is absolutely mathematically incorrect, lol. Most is not security theater. Lol, what? You're talking absolute nonsense now? I mean, things... Look, here's how this works, okay? Many stores will have real cameras. Some stores will simply have a fake camera. Why do they have a fake camera? It's because the idea that you have a real camera with a person sitting behind the CCTV 24/7 around the clock, that's expensive, okay? But you put a fucking fake camera there, and it gets the job done for like 95% of the criminal element. Encryption works on the mathematical expense of security. The weakest part of security is always the person, but it's definitely not theater. Yes, I also say that all the time, that that human beings are the weakest point, the weakest entry point. And that's why social engineering is so valuable. That's why I said, like, in a lot of instances, like the sim swiping doesn't happen at the level of like someone breaking in to a server or something, but instead just like social engineering some dude or knowing someone at AT&T or Verizon or whatever. Sim swapping, not swiping. Sorry. Anyway, I'm saying that calling it security theater makes it sound like the TSA, which is not even close to accurate. No, a lot of people say the TSA is completely ridiculous. But I don't think so. I think the TSA's security theater is a deterrence. I think the TSA's security theater is a valid deterrence. And I'm not saying that because every time I travel, there's a bunch of you in this chat that are, turns out are TSA workers, okay? Even though I did greatly limit my shitting on TSA, because every time I travel, there's like 3 TSA agents that want to take photos, and therefore now I can't really be shitting on, you know, there's two places where I know there's Hasanabi heads, okay? That's a lock. TSA and Best Buy. So you will not catch me shitting on either of those institutions, okay? That's number one. Number two, as far as TSA goes, I think TSA's security theater, while it absolutely fails regularly when it comes to like actually stopping people that genuinely want to bring shit in, and there are studies conducted on this matter that shows time and time again that they are genuinely bad, like actually fucking bad at stopping people with a real wish of smuggling shit. I will state that most of TSA's security theater is just simply a means of deterrence, making it as difficult as possible, making it as like annoying as possible. No, not the government employees tasked with protecting American airspace watching the cussy streamer. Yes. TSA is one of the most Islamophobic organizations that I've ever had to deal with ever. Brother, I know in more ways than you can think. Don't want to reveal any further information beyond that. Engineers are people, they make mistakes a lot. It's impossible to catch all of them. That's ordinarily the issue.